not everyone knows everything. ESG itself is a very deep and wide space.
Indian market perspective, how good is the carbon credit market in India right now?
It's taken a serious beating because US had come out of Paris Agreement completely, and then
Yes.
they decided that not just they will support, they will actually go in the opposite direction. US, New Jersey, New York is flooding right now. Europe is under a heat wave.
So for the audience, if you can tell what exactly ESG contains and how does corporate look at ESG?
So ESG is basically a combination of three words: environmental, social, governance. The pollution rules, right? A factory cannot be established if they don't have a consent to operate, and consent will be given on these terms. You have a plant ETP, you have a zero liquid discharge, are you polluting there? Is there noise pollution? Is there hazardous waste pollution? This is all within the factory.
Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students who are preparing for competitive exams in finance. And today, as a part of that journey, I also speak to a lot of industry veterans and trying to understand what are the different roles and opportunities that are available in the market. And today, as a part of that discussion, I'm with Amit Sir. And Amit Sir is basically a veteran into the sustainability space, and he's going to be talking about his overall career journey and what is happening in the sustainability and the ESG space. So, first of all, Amit sir, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. And if you
Thank you.
can brief about your journey in the industry, that would be really helpful for the audience.
Hi Ganesh, hi everyone. Happy to be here and happy to be leading a lot of students and participants in this journey, and hope to excite you with what I am trying to do in this path. So, my journey began with mechanical engineering way back in 1990, and then I worked with just three companies in 3 decades.
Okay.
So, I worked with Auto and then Gillette, and then I worked with Coca-Cola for 20 years, where I did a lot of departments, moved around in supply chain, engineering projects, sales, IT, and then finally came to sustainability. So I was when I left Coca-Cola in 2018, I was a chief sustainability officer for 4 countries. 45 factories were under me, and me and my team were looking at environment, health, safety, sustainability, operational excellence, and quality at the corporate level. So that kind of a journey that I had done in 3 decades culminated with PGDBM ISB program, Global MBA, in 2017. Post which I thought that I need to do something beyond Coca-Cola, and that's where I started Pro India. So Pro India is in a space of creating sustainability ecosystem, and
Mhm.
more importantly, waste to wealth and circular economy is our focus, with a clear focus on compliance for the large organizations in their journey of waste management, all kind of waste management, and also towards ESG, where we are looking at helping students like yours to charter a new course for themselves in
Right.
ESG space. In training and consulting, we also do a lot of consulting with big companies on compliances and other net zero paths. So that's a short brief, Ganesh. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. So, sir, this your inclination towards sustainability. So, how did that got triggered? Was it basically an opportunity that came in, or you're reading something and you realize that this is something of an area of an interest?
So for me, environment, health, safety, employee concerns, and CSR
Mhm.
were something which was ingrained in my corporate journey with the brands like P&G, Aisher, and Coca-Cola. So it was already in me, and I had interest in the way we don't damage the ecosystem, because that's all we got. Okay, there's only one planet that we have. And then after the regulations came in
Mhm.
on extended producers responsibility, I thought I can also convert it to a business, because people in India definitely would like to pay and get their compliances completed.
Okay.
They may have a little bit of what you call hesitation, thinking very broad climate terms, and global good. Companies in India, they when it comes to compliances, they will definitely want to complete that, especially the top 1,000 companies. So I thought that I can build a business around that. So this was something which, with my MBA, with the passion in environment and with the need to do something on my own,
Mhm.
that on the three legs, the Pro India stood in a way.
Okay, okay, wonderful, sir. And see, our audience is primarily those who want to make a career into finance or career into, say, the ESG sustainability space. Now, for them, because you're also doing a lot of consulting, so if you can bifurcate what all different areas in which consulting opportunities are generally there in the market.
People in big corporates and even medium-sized companies now
Mhm.
know that environment is an important space, and they have to be prepared for it. Some people may have and some may not have their own set of teams. However, the outside perspective is extremely important for many companies, especially to know what's happening outside, and also to benchmark themselves. They keep looking for advice, and I mean, a company like Coca-Cola went to take advice of how to run our operations with McKinsey and Etikani in my time, and they taught us zero-based costing. It's a concept which is very elementary, but when it comes from corporations and consulting organizations, they come up and question everything. So that is something which happens when a consultant enters a
Right.
space, which normally you and I, if you are working for that company, it is kind of given, right? So this is the difference a consultant does. The other thing is that not everyone knows everything, and ESG itself is a very deep and wide space. Let's take an example of finance. So in finance, generally people will look for the skill sets in how to manage their capital, how to manage their OPEX, how to manage cash flow, how to manage EBITDA, and things like these are the numbers that finance people will, and how to obviously take care of P&Ls and manage all the documentary
Right.
requirements. No,
Right.
a finance person, if you ask him what is risk, what is environmental risk. So for a finance person, risk is something which gives a probability of reaching your number. So it has certain alpha or beta to it. Yeah, you can
Right.
reach to this number, but there is alpha in it. Okay, so this much is the standard deviation, right?
Right.
So higher the risk, higher the deviation, standard deviation. What we teach to finance folks, so far you have taken care of a lot of risk, like forex risk, risk of commodity, risk of inflation.
Right.
But the new type of risks which are coming in are
Mhm.
geopolitical risk, climate risk, risk which are related to which is happening now more frequently than it was earlier planned for. So in my
Okay.
company earlier, we had concept of managing business continuity. So business
BCP.
continuity, BCP, you must be knowing that this is a finance requirement also, but very large corporates do this BCP. Now, BCP is done in case of what if floods happen in that particular factory. How will you
Right.
route your finished goods and how will you get your raw materials to that factory? What happens if there's a bandh for 15 days in one of the location? What happens if there is a violence or whatever? No, there's a public outrage, things
Law and
like
order.
that. So what happens if there is SAP outage, a program outage? How do you
Yes.
balance? How do you program it? How do you test it? So this BCP is something which finance folks also now started doing because they are preparing for risks.
Yes.
Very importantly, because if somebody did that in the pandemic time, they would have definitely gained advantage out of it. What if out of four factories, one factory shut down completely? Am I able
Mhm.
to at least make my cars, or my 100% engines was coming from this factory?
Okay.
So risk is an element which is very wide, and one of the risks these days is climate risk. So that is something which we teach, that if you and climate risk is not that no two factories next to each other
Hmm.
producing two different goods sitting in the same geographical area will have exactly the same climate risk. It will not be like that. It depends
Okay.
on what is that. One is extracting water from ground, and to them the climate risk is drought or the water level table going down. Whereas
Right.
the other, if it is not into water business, like Coca-Cola is 97% water, right?
Hmm.
Then that is not the climate risk for them. So you
Okay.
understand. So it is the TCFD is a program which is converting the risk into a financial outcome, a
Okay.
loss. So this is
Yes.
what we teach in to finance community specifically. And
Okay.
then there is now SEBI rules. So rules are around non-financial reporting, which is very very strong now. If you see that earlier it was BRR, now it is BRSR. Earlier it was 100
Yes.
companies, now
Yes.
it is 1,000 companies. 2 years from now it will be 10,000 companies. In Europe, the regulation is for 50,000 companies. Right now it will become 500,000 companies in next 2 months, 2 years.
Oh,
So
okay.
CSRD for Europe. Now that is a regulation for any exporter or any company working within EU region or even a subsidiary within EU. They
Okay.
have this risk standing right in front of them. If you don't meet it, you can't export. And if you meet it, but your carbon intensity of your product is higher than what is the slab that you've been given, then you have to go buy carbon credits and
Credits.
offset. So again, it hits you financially. These are called science-based targets, and you complete the entire process through financial setups, and then you say that okay, 20 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, what are my risks, and what is the cost of that risk, and what is the how do I mitigate the same thing? So it is
Okay.
very specific to companies. Therefore, okay. So I think for the finance community that you have, the people that you're teaching, this skill set is missing. People think that they have done the numbers, CA 123, CFA
Hmm.
123, and that's it. It is not. This makes it a little bit more complete.
Okay. Okay. And so you also mentioned about the carbon credit market, Indian market perspective. How good is the carbon credit market in India right now?
So to be honest with you, carbon credit in the last 1.5 years has taken a beating. It's taken a serious beating because US had come out of Paris Agreement completely, and then
Yes.
they decided that not just they will support, they will actually go in the opposite direction. So they came out with a lot of things which are regressive in nature, and
Right.
therefore it's a big market. And if that happens, then everything takes a back seat a little bit. So carbon credit market this point in time is low. I mean, it was at a high point when in the previous administration, US administration, in Biden's time, he signed the agreement, Paris Agreement, on the day one, and the Trump administration, he signed an agreement to take it out on the day one. So you can imagine. So carbon markets are down, and it has become carbon has become a political word right now, rather than something which is for sustainability. People like us, we can see the effect of carbon on almost daily basis. I can
Hmm.
see US, New Jersey, New York is flooding right now. Europe is under a heat wave. There have been as so many forest fires because forest fire in 1 degree temperature rise in Amazon basin or in Australia. 1 degree temperature rise globally
Hmm.
means several degree temperature rise in certain cities, because it's globally. You're saying globally 1 degree has gone up, right? But that
Right.
doesn't mean that everywhere it is one degree
It's
which
an
has
average number. Yes.
average number. Somewhere it could have been 5, 6, 7, right? Now
Okay.
that means that there is chances of forest fires are much higher. So you had a big Australian fire, then you had a New York, New Jersey fire, then you had California fires happen every year. This time it was really major. I mean, all the film stars' bungalows were down and out, burnt. We are seeing this massively. El Nino, pattern of wind changing,
Yes.
monsoons getting completely shifted, farmers not knowing when to sow, when to reap. All of
Hmm.
that is happening. This is the straight effect of climate change, and it has been proven that by two Nobel laureates, including Dr. Pachauri of India, IPCC, and Al Gore, way back in about 20 years back, that the the rise in carbon dioxide is because of humans. So
There's been a
and
study
so
around
yeah, so
it.
this is proven. So now more the rise, more the global gas greenhouse getting trapped, more the temperature, more the variability. All of that is there. So I'm of a hope, and I think the industry feels very strongly that this current whatever upheaval which is happening geopolitically
Hmm.
is going to settle down. maybe in couple of years, and then things will go on its own path. Right now, every country is defending itself. So, sometimes governments say that exporting into Europe with a carbon CBAM, a carbon abatement plan, right, is like a trade barrier. Okay, so
Okay.
they have put a trade barrier so that we don't
Right.
export to Europe. It's become a trade barrier. So carbon is
Mhm.
taking different synonyms and terminologies right now.
Political, yes.
Yeah, this has become political, but I think it's a matter of 2 years. I think this saneness will prevail, and once the geopolitical things settle down a little bit, then it will again come in the front seat.
And sir, now because we have been talking now about the sustainability side, but there is you also do consulting for ESG. So for the audience, if you can tell what exactly ESG contains and how does corporate look at ESG or companies look at ESG?
So ESG is basically a combination of three words: environmental, social, governance, right? So environmental is something which people talk about a lot. Okay, I have also been talking only about environmental side so far, right? So environmental is not just in your plant, but also the effect of the operation to the natural resources, and how is it damaging, how is it consuming the six natural resources, and what is the effect of it on air, water, surrounding areas, and something which cannot be contained like carbon dioxide can go transboundary also. So that is largely environment aspect of corporate, and there are now several regulations in the same. Plant level discharge and everything was something which was there in air and water rules from 1971, the
Hmm.
pollution rules, right? A factory cannot be established if they don't have a consent to operate, and consent will be given on these terms. You have a plant ETP, you have a zero liquid discharge, are you polluting the air, is there noise pollution, is there hazardous waste pollution. This is all within the factory. What has taken a new turn is beyond the factory, which means that you and your suppliers, you and your distributors
Mhm.
constitute a value chain, and that value chain is something which is creating. If you are not existing, then the value chain will not be there. If Maruti was not there, and let's say Honda was not there, then the Manesar will not be there, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
Manesar Sipcot will not be there. All these AutoZones will not be there because there are
Mhm.
one main tier one plant, and there are 400 tier 2 plants around it. What are you generating as pollution in the value chain? And 99% of that is in the value chain, 1% is in your factory generally. So you control
Right.
1%, you can make it 1% to half percent, but then still there's a 99% of the carbon which is happening with your value chain, which is come under the BRSR now. So
Okay.
that is the environment part. So carbon of the value chain is part of BRSR.
So this is
Uh,
similar to the scope one, scope two, scope three.
yeah, so
That we
scope
are,
three is basically all your no value chain upstream,
yes.
downstream. So this is just that. But BRSR has other two components also, and that is there in any other methodologies like whether GRI or SASB, TCFD, whatever you talk about. So they have this S component, which is basically social and
Mhm.
social component is extremely important because you are employing people and you are serving customers, and what do they think about you, or what do you take care of them, do you having all the regulations in place, do you have equal rights, do you have bargaining power, can they speak, do you have a whistleblower policy, xyz. So all
Okay.
of that comes under social. This is again very important because one wrong thing and one reputation damage almost kill the industry. You can see, Musk will write one tweet, 10% of the value will be gone.
Right.
Okay, right. So this and Adani, one report against Adani, the valuation has done. So this valuation is a very tricky game. People think that they have a complete handle around valuation of the company. I mean, we thought that as an MBA students, we know we can do as long as you do a discounted cash flow, you are a master of
Obviously.
valuation. Okay, you are not, because वैल्यूएशन में वो एक मच्छर भी आदमी को क्या बना देता है आपको मालूम है, राइट? सो वही होता है वैल्यूएशन. So that
Okay.
is truly valuation. So valuation is reputation risk is another risk which people don't account for. If somebody
Hmm.
says, I want my team to work 70 hours a week, 90 hours a week, whatever
Ah,
that person is, the next day you see the stock market will give him a slap on the face straight away, right? So they don't like it because consumers don't like. So that is the social part of it. Governance is everything which are again requirement legalities, not just in India but outside
Hmm.
India. Some PE investors are looking at governance and saying, are you in an industry which is continuously damaging the environment? Are you taking care of environment in positive ways and things like that? So
Yes.
governance is again a very very important subject for finance people. Governance, I think, is something that they take it very closely, uh, work it very closely with legal teams. And
Hmm.
I was interviewing a candidate who has come from a very large legal company. So they look at ESG parameters as importantly as they will look at valuation,
Okay.
because no, they have to advise to their clients. So ES and G are these three things together, and I think every company has that direction.
Okay. And sir, if somebody wants to build a career in ESG or sustainability, what should be ideally the pathway from your experience, and what important skill sets they need?
I think a person should be passionate to learn new things. I would say not every ESG person need to be an engineer, an environmental engineer, and then he has to do all the calculations, because these days most of it is available. What an ESG person should be, should be able to make sure that has a very good skill set to talk to people, no, talk to the senior managers in the organizations, and be able to get the things moving as at a team level.
Okay.
It also gives that person an immediate pedestal to start working and talking to the senior manager. I really don't see people, and I have seen a lot of people in the last 7 years. What I have noticed is one doesn't have to be an MSc environmental engineer or whatever to become an ESG specialist. You need very strong passion, and
Hmm.
then these models is something that you can pick up along the way. Yes, what is
Okay.
important is the company that you're talking to or consulting or you're working for. You need to
Hmm.
know every department how it functions. How does that department add up to your goals? Because ESG is like picking up pearls of all the department and putting it together into form of a garland. Okay, now
Okay.
that garland can be a garland of shoes or garland can be a garland of pearls. It is totally dependent on what your company is doing, but at
Okay.
least you have the ability to put it together into one strategy. That is what is, and that at that level, just a understanding of the models
Hmm.
of what ESG is, a small modular understanding for the specialist is good enough to appreciate that concept and then work in that direction.
And so, what is new happening in this space? Climate risk, or is this new models coming in, or new regulations coming in? Climate risk and ESG both.
So the biggest one right now is BRSR for India,
Hmm.
because that is something which is not only for your company but also the value chain, as I just explained. That is the biggest one. I would say that CBAM, the European market, is very forward looking market. They are always ahead by 2 decades, I would say, from regulatory point of view. So
Okay.
one has to always keep looking at that in that direction of what will be the next thing. So there were a lot of EPR is extended producers responsibility, which is a responsibility existing now in Indian context beyond the product. It is now in the packaging or what the product leaves behind at the end of life.
Waste. Yes.
Yeah, the waste. So we do work in plastic packaging, but if you see every few months a new EPR is coming. So earlier it was electronic waste, then it was plastic waste, now battery waste, oil waste. Last month it was non-ferrous waste, because
Okay.
no, copper, aluminium are in short supply, and
Hmm.
everybody now wants motors, but there's no copper. So there is a EPR for copper to bring back the copper. EPR is to bring it back, like basically to
Okay.
bring your waste back, refine it and reuse it.
Okay.
Lithium is in short supply, so that will
Yes.
happen. Textile waste is the number two waste in the world over. Fast fashion.
Okay.
EPR is coming in that also. And then end of life is of the vehicle is also now getting covered in a way. It is like an EPR, which means that you have to account for your cars after their end of life. So Maruti will have to say that I produced in 2008 these many cars, and these many cars I will bring back to workshop, dismantle it, and take out the metal and other elements to it. So EPR, I would say, is
Okay.
something to remain focused on because it will keep coming into the new things.
Okay. 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 Wonderful, sir. I mean, this conversation would really, really help our audience and also somebody who wants to get a basic in understanding of what is sustainability, what is climate risk, what is ESG. So again, sir, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. This is going to be really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.